see online a lot of people who really dread warping. I see things that go a little something like this. I thought all weavers hated warping. It's a friggin' pain. I have a love-hate relationship with my loom. I love the weaving, but I hate the warping. It takes forever. I have yet to find a non-frustrating way to do it. I'm impatient. I hate warping my loom. It takes 2 hours or 10 years. I only do long projects, so I don't have to warp so often. So much hate. I'm a new weaver, and I freak out every time I have to warp my loom. Warping is the biggest struggle. Warping is my downfall. I truly hate warping. And the one that really got me, this is the main reason I don't weave anymore. Honey, no. Now I admit, I dreaded warping for a long time. It just sucked the joy right out of all the weaving. Until I saw an online post by Nancy Reed called Overcoming the Fear of Warping. It really struck a chord with me, and I've been adjusting my viewpoint of warping ever since. I'm hoping in this video I can help you adjust your viewpoint so that you can enjoy your weaving from start to finish. So let's take a moment to sit quietly and really try to identify what it is about weaving that causes so much stress and anxiety. Now, this is a thought exercise, so really try to identify specifics. Is it technical issues like tangling threads or difficulty managing the mechanics? Is it uncomfortable? Is it being unfamiliar or intimidated with the process? Is it how long it takes? Is it the anxiety about making mistakes or wasting materials? Once you find the reason for your stress with warping, the easier it'll be to address that and then move past it. For me personally, I had a few reasons. I was initially inexperienced, so trying to remember the setup process each time I did it was like starting over. I didn't warp very often, so in the months that went between warping sessions, I would forget steps. Or at least I would be unsure and not sure if I remembered everything. I sometimes had technical problems with horribly tangled warps or just things not going onto the loom correctly, making really a big tangled mess. And my possibly ADHD brain also meant that things tended to take twice as long as they should, and that became intimidating. Every time I thought, oh, it'll be a few hours, it was 3 days. I'm also a recovering perfectionist, so that part of making mistakes and not using all my materials to the absolute perfection did cause a lot of anxiety in me. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to let go of that need for it to be just so, or the need to not have any waste. It's okay. We're gonna Elsa that. We're gonna let that go. Just let it go. Let it go. Making mistakes or doing something wrong or even wasting a little bit of your materials is not bad. It's all part of the learning process. Mistakes are normal and human. Doing something differently is not wrong. It's not bad. It's just different. Close enough is okay. It's really hard to learn to give yourself the grace and the kindness that you would give somebody else. We need to remember that for ourselves, to give ourselves that grace and that kindness. Expect mistakes. Mistakes happen. Embrace those mistakes. They're normal. It's part of the process. There are studies that show the human brain actually learns from its errors. If you want to go down this research rabbit hole, go ahead and Google making mistakes and brain scans. There's even an interesting story, if you go far enough down the rabbit hole, about how the researchers were analyzing their scans and found signs of brain waves from a dead salmon, which turned out to be a mistake in their analysis data. So even neuroscientists make mistakes. This research shows that the human brain is geared to recognize errors. You get these electrical spikes when you find these mistakes. When you find and correct mistakes, it activates the reward centers of your brain. A focus on error monitoring, which is finding your errors, recognizing your errors, and then self-correcting, actually helps you learn more than just being right. So what this all means is that your brain is geared to find mistakes and figure out how to fix them and learn from that. So mistakes can be a good thing. One of the big thing in Nancy Reed's original post was she made a point to do many short warps and warp frequently, sometimes daily. Doing this gives you a lot of practice, a lot of repetition with the steps of warping, and lets you try different techniques to find out what works for you. When learning any new skill, you've got to practice it. It's the same thing if you're learning an instrument or a new language. You've got to repeat, repeat, repeat. You can't do that if you're only warping once every 3 months. Warping is such an individual process. So much comes down to what works for an individual weaver and what their own personal preferences are. Weaving developed in all cultures around the world in a multitude of different ways. There's no one right way to weave. There's no one right way to warp. Find what works for you. Is that warping back to front, front to back, sectional warping, continuous warping, rapid warping, spool warping, direct warping, using a warping board, a warping mill, warping pegs? How many times can I say warping? Maybe just a couple of hooks? Do you use least sticks? Do you not use least sticks? If something isn't clicking into place for you, if something isn't working or is difficult or awkward, try something else. A frequent complaint about warping is that it takes a long time. Well, yeah. Part of that is learning to embrace that. I like to claim my warping time as personal meditation time. That's my me time. I don't have to think about anything else. It's me and the threads and my loom. Each step has so much counting and repetition and numbers that I can just really zone in to that and just narrow my focus, forget about the outside world, and just one thing, what I'm doing right here, right now. Plan lots of time for your warping so you aren't stressed or rushed. Break it up into small sections. Do the measuring. Come back and do another thing, and then do another thing, and then do another. Maybe you wind on, or maybe if you're doing front to back, you slay the reed, or then you thread the heddles. And breaking it down into smaller steps makes it more manageable. Take lots of breaks. Stand up, stretch, move around. You don't have to sit and do it all in one go. If you want to sit and do it all in one go, you can. If that's what works for you, then do it. But if that doesn't work for you, then don't. Go slow, take your time, remember to breathe. that cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Dropping those shoulders really helps calm your whole body. Have some music on, or have some drinks or snacks to enjoy while you're doing your warping. Heck, maybe have a friend come over. Maybe they can help you. Or at the very least, they can be pleasant conversation. I know right now we're in social distancing, so maybe you could have a phone call or a video chat with somebody. If your threads are giving you headaches, try to work on your fiber management skills. When you measure out your threads on the warping board or the warping mill or however you do it, when you put them on there, they are not tangled. And it is possible to get your threads from there onto your loom without tangling. It just takes some thread management. When you are winding your threads, be aware of how you're moving your hands. If you're doing a lot of wrist flipping, you might be putting twist into the threads, which is going to make them want to kink up on themselves and may make them tangle more easily. So be sure you, as you pull the threads off, you're minimizing the amount of twist you put into it. Avoid stretching your threads. When you're using pegs or board or a mill, you don't need to pull those threads real tight. It's not about tight tension. At that point, you're just measuring. They just need to be snug enough to stay put, but not so tight that you could strum them like a guitar string. That's not what we're going for. They just need to be tight enough just so they don't sag, so they stay in place. Be sure to secure your yarn with choke ties. Be sure to tie out your cross. Maybe consider using 2 crosses. I know I've sometimes been glad for that second cross. There's been times the first one, something catastrophic happens, the least sticks fall out, and you're like, oh, but it's not that bad because I just have another cross on the other end. I just need to flip everything over. It's okay, it's fine, it's no big deal. Once you have everything securely tied, chain your warp. And this is like a loose crochet chain. Doesn't have to be tight. As a matter of fact, don't make it tight. It's just enough to keep your threads under control. If things get tangled as you're putting it on, I was taught to shake your warp threads, put a little tension on them, give them a shake, strum your finger across the top of your warp threads, maybe tap them. Some people comb them out. I was told not to comb them. Some people swear by it. I could see how with some fibers combing might damage or cause pilling, so be careful with combing. But remember that if you've got your warp threads tied securely, you don't have true knots. Nothing is knotted. It might be snarled. It might be twisted up on itself, but it's not actually knotted. So shaking and strumming and giving it a little tap should help work anything out. Help the threads let go of each other. Sometimes spreading the threads out a little more helps them work apart. Find ways to work comfortably at your loom. Whether that's getting a lower or a taller bench, I've seen some people use a yoga ball. See if you can take off your front beam or your back beam so you can get closer to the reed, get closer to the heddles. Heck, take your reed out of the beater bar and lay it flat so you're just pulling threads down through to the bottom. Maybe you're lifting shafts with a piece of wood so that things are easier to see. Try to get it eye level. Try different positions to see what works for you. If you're hunched over and uncomfortable or leaning forward and put strain on your back, then you're associating pain and fatigue with warping, and that's just not fun. Use the tools that work. Have good lighting. Add lighting if you need to. Make things as easy on yourself as possible. Don't voluntarily get on the struggle bus. Give yourself extra room for sampling. Sampling lets you find threading errors or test out the finishing techniques to a small section of your fabric before you weave a whole 5 yards. I learned the glories of sampling on accident. I had a warp that was my biggest solo project to date, and I put it on the loom. And we still are not sure what happens during the beaming process. We don't know. 4 people looked at that warping problem and none of us were able to figure out what had gone wrong. I got about 8 inches woven and had gone through 2 advances, and on my 3rd advance, the problem became evident. One side became really tight and the other side was really loose. And the weird thing was that this was a gradual shift down the width, the 30-inch width of the weaving project. We suspect that one of the brackets of the folding back beam was not latched down all the way during the beaming process, and then it did get latched down all the way, which just pulled everything a little bit. It was a hot mess. We had to take everything off, retension, put everything back on. From there, it was fine. It was great, it was wonderful, the rest of the project. But I had these 8 inches that then I was able to wash and use, and I found, hey, look, here's a threading error. Oh, look, here's a spot where a thread crossed with another thread between the heddles and the reed. And that's causing a problem. That's causing this great big old long float here. Okay, so I found a couple problems that I didn't notice otherwise that I was able to correct. So that was cool. Totally accidental, but I'm totally gonna do that from now on. Overall, frustration is gonna happen. And there will be warps where nothing seems to go right. That loom, there were threats of bonfires. Bonfires and marshmallows. But if you remember, take that deep breath, relax into it, and things can be better. I hope this gives you a better viewpoint to help you get unstuck from that place of frustration and have a happy warping experience. Let me know in the comments below what frustrates you and how you can change it. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed this, please click below to survive. Survive. Yes, click below to survive the zombie apocalypse, because you will need all these skills to survive. Subscribe to survive. Click below to subscribe, and happy weaving. Maybe that's why I called it impending looms, because I knew something that I didn't know that I knew. I don't know how this works. I just roll with it. Yes, because I can't talk today. Thanks, migraine brain. Are you gonna survive? Subscribe to survive. Subscribe to survive.